I have a little bit of a different perspective on things. So when I was growing up, there was periods of time in which I did not have a television and a telephone and stuff like that. This was in the early to middle 90s. Completely, pretty much just worked my job and didn't spend a lot of time consuming, anything as far as content, media, anything like that. So later on, it just kind of developed a different perspective. When I walk into a room, historically, in the past, before the internet, or before I used the internet anyway, like in the middle 90s, if I walked into a room, doctor's office or somebody else's house, and there's this TV blaring over here, and it's making a bunch of noise, and it's kind of trying to get your attention, essentially, and my instincts were to ignore it, try to avoid focusing on things that are trying to grab your attention, because that's not my purpose. Like my purpose to go to the doctor's office is not to watch TV, right? So it's not my goal, it's not my purpose. I try to stay focused on what I'm doing and not try to get sidetracked by some external source. So with that perspective, now it's 2024, and there is just a tremendous amount of things that are trying to get your attention with the internet, and pretty much everybody's attention. Everybody spends a lot of time on the internet in one form or the other, whether they're using their phone or a computer or something like that. There's all kinds of different applications that you can download, and Facebook, Twitter, or whatever, and or YouTube. And so I make YouTube videos, right? So when I make my YouTube videos, is for a purpose, and the purpose is not just to get attention so I can make money. That's not my purpose. I've always tried to avoid doing that, trying to focus on making content that's actually valuable to a set of people out there. And so every second that somebody's watching my video is for a particular purpose, So, but there is a tremendous incentive for people to grab your attention and hold it, and they don't have to give you any value. All they're doing and trying to do is grab your attention so that they can benefit. Your attention is very valuable. Your time is very valuable. And that's the commodity online right now, is your time and attention. YouTube counts watch time as the main currency of the entire site, as watch time. So your time and attention is the value, for advertisers, for competitive spaces, whatever. So I think it is important that people understand that they have to guard their time and attention and their focus. They have to guard it, and don't just allow it to be captured by anything that happens to be in front of you. It's kind of like if you are on a diet, you just can't eat everything in front of you. You have to limit yourself to some degree. Whatever is put in front of you, you can't just grab it and shove it in your mouth, right? So when things are presented to you, no matter what the context is, whether it be a television, whether it be internet, phone, application, whatever it is, TikTok, I forgot about that one because I don't use it. Basically, there is things that can benefit you. There's things that you can learn from, and there's things that can make you grow or help you grow and help you understand and everything. And then there's everything else, and there's like 99.9% is everything else, so that's the broad path. The narrow path is the path that you are choosing to go on, and it's very hard. It's usually referred to as distractions. You're distracted from what you're supposed to be doing. So there's two aspects to this. One is to try to reject anything that is trying to get your attention. Like my mindset is to reject whatever's trying to get my attention that is not part of my goal. If I'm walking into a grocery store to get some hamburger meat or whatever. I walk and get the hamburger meat, and I check out and I leave. I'm not walking around, looking around and browsing things and, oh, look at this, look at that. I'm not there to be subjected to whatever is in the store, so staying on task is very important. Now, there is another aspect. So the first is to reject, not partake in scenarios or things that are going to make you focus on the wrong things, right? So you try to reject, but then you also try to stay focused at such a high level on what you're doing that you kind of have blinders. You can't focus on anything else because you're so focused on what you're doing. And there's a common thing that's said in like the business world is and I think it's Grant Cardone is the person I heard it from, is if you're not focused on your goals, if you're not working really hard on your own goals, then you're going to be automatically by default used as a tool to accomplish somebody else's goals. So that's what it kind of boils down to, is that if you have your time and your attention, it's kind of like you're in a burning building. Okay, the building is on fire. The smoke alarms are going off and there's flames everywhere. In that moment, if somebody wants to walk up to you and sell you a watch or whatever, you're like, get out of my way. My attention is on getting out of the building. There's no time for talking about the weather. There's no time for these other things that other people want to do. You have a goal, and that is to get out of the building. It's an immediate goal, and you kind of have to have, to some degree, that kind of mindset in order to accomplish what you need to accomplish, because other people, in addition to the internet, other people will try, they want to get your attention for whatever reason, and they don't really care about your goals. They have their own goals, right? So if their goals can overpower your goals, then your goals get subverted for their goals automatically. But I think the main thing right now, that's definitely a factor, but the main thing right now is not to engage in online stuff. Make sure that that you don't sit there scrolling and just look at, like, TikTok is a perfect example. You don't go to TikTok to learn anything. You go there to just randomly see things. It chooses what it shows to you. You have no choice, really. Same thing with Facebook and stuff like that. Like, if you're just flipping through it's kind of like the old days where you're flipping through the channels and there's things subjected to you. You're subjecting yourself to whatever happens to be on the next channel. You have no control. So when the internet came along, it was pretty interesting because you type in a search and you choose to a great degree what you see, and you can kind of like have more control over it. Nowadays, the way Google works is you type in a search and it kind of disregards whatever you search there, and it just kind of shows you what it wants to show you based on whatever its goals are, whatever Google's goals are. And to some degree, YouTube is still okay, but YouTube, when you type in something, you can actually find things that are actually useful. How do I fix my dryer? How do I change the brake pads on my car? You can actually find a lot of information by searching and find it, and it's valuable information. But if you just kind of randomly choose whatever's in your quote feed, what they feed you, and you consume it without question, then there's a lot of nonsense in there that is trying to just take up your time. Now there's also kind of like clickbait type stuff where it presents, the presentation of the thumbnail and the title can tell you, hey, this is valuable, this is worth your time, and then you click on it, and then it turns out it was wasting your time. So that's a big, and that's where I say that there's a huge incentive to grab your time and attention and focus on things. So if you have 1 million things trying to grab your attention. So like if you're at your house, you know, you might have relatives, you might have maybe neighbors that, you know, they might come over and try to get your attention. But if you're online, then you literally have millions of things that are trying to grab your time and attention. And so you have to actively guard it. You can't like passively guard it. You know, like you can't just like, well, if I happen to see something like that, I just won't. No, you have to be like, I am choosing to do this, and I'm not going to allow anything else to, you know, anything else that's not that, I'm going to not partake in it, you know. Just like the example of going to the store, buying the item, and leaving, and not just walking around randomly looking at random things that you weren't there for. Especially if you're hungry, and as far as the grocery store example. But yeah, going forward in time, it's becoming more and more of a problem, because we're in the age of abundance of everything. Because we have an abundance of energy right now, there's abundance of products, there's abundance of almost everything is in abundance right now, extreme abundance. And so it's real easy to overdo it as far as spending on things that you might not need, and spend your time and attention on things that are not worth your while in the long run, short term or long run, you know. And entertainment is, to me, I kind of have this negative viewpoint of entertainment, like the word entertainment, you know. I enjoy some entertainment, but there has to be very limited. We have an excess of entertainment, you know. If you're entertained, that means you're passively enjoying something that somebody else created. Now, it is, to me, I just have a negative bias, okay? Because there's so much things to do, and when you realize you've wasted time, and then it's like you feel cheated, right? You kind of, if you didn't guard your time and attention properly, then instead of blaming yourself by saying, hey, I shouldn't have done this or whatever, it's real easy to say, hey, they distracted me, you know? So very important to take responsibility and say, I'm the one that's responsible for my time and attention. I'm going to guard it, and I'm not going to allow my time and attention to be squandered on other people's goals or whatever. Especially young people, you know, growing up, and they don't have the experience of not having abundance, you know, or internet, or abundance of information. You know, there's so much abundance right now that it's abundance of food with overweight, that kind of thing. There's abundance of poison in the grocery stores as well. There's not that much food in the grocery stores. It's very important to understand that. As a side, you know, statement here, that when you go in the grocery store, if you go to any food store, if you go to a lot of restaurants, what you're actually looking at is not food. There is basically a lot of poisons and a lot of chemicals and a lot of things that really are bad for you, really, really bad. And when you're younger, you don't really realize it, because you eat something and you feel fine, you know. But as you get older, you realize, like, you eat something and it, like, you get, you know, knocked to the ground, you know, like, it's really, really can be a big deal, because then you're more sensitive to it, you know, especially if you clean up your diet. But anyways, time and attention, abundance, it's easily going to be, you know, you start off in life as a teenager, and then next thing you know, you've wasted a lot of time, and then now the time in which your brain works is when you're younger. You're more malleable. The neurons and everything are more malleable. You can understand things better. You can learn things better. You can get away with a lot of, you know, physical things, or a poor diet, or whatever. There's a lot of things that kind of, it makes you able to get ahead. It's your head start time, you know. And if you squander that on TikTok videos or scrolling on Facebook or something like that, you squander it, well, you're not going to be able to get that head start, you're going to be so far behind. You're not, if you don't have tremendous skills, and you got to really push yourself to create skills, to develop skills. I have another YouTube channel called Push, Create, Strive, and pushing is the very first thing you got to do, because your default is laziness. You know, you're like, if your basic instincts is to not do things, so you have to push yourself to just do things, and then you have to push to another degree that you didn't think was possible to actually get anything done that's worth doing. So you got to push yourself and push yourself and push yourself to all these new heights, and you didn't even realize that was it was a thing, versus much less, you know, your capabilities. You didn't think you were capable, and then you become more and more and more capable. And then you get to the point where you push yourself to accomplish skills and stuff like that. Now you're at the create stage. So you can push first, then you create. You know, you create things, be creative, and have the skills to be creative. You know, whatever the medium is. You know, like the creativity. Like in my case, I use videos. You know, that's my creativity avenue, and it took years and years of developing understanding of cameras and audio and all kinds of stuff. So I get, like right now I'm using a GoPro, and I can't stand GoPros, you know, but they do have their uses. They have good uses a lot of times, but because it's like a cheat code, you know, it's just like it gives you mediocre footage, and you don't have to work so hard. So it's nice to have sometimes. But developing understanding of light, understanding of sound, understanding of how to present different perspectives, and how to do it in a way that's valuable. You know, you can have, like, you know, cool camera angles and stuff like that, like a commercial, right? They have these cool camera angles and stuff like that, and they throw out some words, and, you know, it has a goal that's not aligned with your goal. It has a goal of presenting to you a product for you to buy, to entice you to buy it, right? Now, my goal is to provide value to the potential person that wants to buy a vehicle that's going to use it for their family, you know, because I see the positive things, you know, like somebody who, like when I sold cars at a dealership, and when I was there was people that came in with their family, and they would buy a vehicle, and it would change their life for the better, you know, because they had an old vehicle, it was bad on gas, it was breaking down a lot, whatever the case may be, or it was just too small, or it just didn't match their family, right? And then they get this new vehicle, and literally they like name the vehicle, you know, this vehicle's named this, you know, and they're able to accomplish so much more, and it's an extension of their family, and it's such a positive experience when they get the vehicle that's right for them, and they can afford it and all that stuff. So when I present the vehicles on camera, then I'm trying to focus on, like, how can this benefit a person that's on the other side, somebody I don't know, somebody in a different state, you know, completely different perspective. How can they take this content that I'm creating and use it at home or whatever? They can watch the video and understand whether this vehicle is going to match their needs or not. And then whatever there's potential things that could be an issue for them, not always, could be an issue, or could be a great benefit. You know, I'm trying to present it in a way that's going to be valuable to a person that I don't even know, and I don't, you know, I'm just kind of like talking to somebody, like somebody that I would, like a family member or something like that, a good friend. I'm like, okay, here's what this vehicle is, here's what it could be, here's what it could do for you, basically, and here's how to use it. You know, here's some of the functions. Some of them are not obvious on how to use them. So there's a little bit of a learning curve, especially somebody that's trading in an older vehicle. They have to learn, you know, some of the features of new technology. So you kind of try to make that process a little bit easier. So that is trying to add value. But in addition to that, it's not just the person who's going to buy the car. It's also to present the vehicle that a whole team of designers designed and present it in a way that highlights the value that they created themselves. They created a product just like I'm creating a product as a video, and so if I explain the benefits, because I don't think like advertising, like a car company the designers don't make the content that goes to the customer. The customer sees commercials, which is through a different avenue, which is the advertising section of the company, the marketing section. So they might highlight some of the positive, but they don't always highlight certain things that could be a huge benefit to customers. They're just mostly focusing on price and here's a cool color or whatever, and it's kind of shallow. So I'm with my videos, trying to focus on the value to somebody else on the internet, and it's there forever. It's just there. You can watch it, you can pause it, you can resume it, you can watch it in your underwear at home. You don't have to go to a dealership and look at the car, and you can exclude, and that's the good thing, is excluding vehicles that are not going to work. So you can't buy all vehicles, so you have to exclude all the other vehicles except for the one you're going to buy. So looking and seeing, say, my videos, people sometimes will say, well, when I saw this, I stopped watching because now I know it's not for me, right? And like, good, that's good. You saved a lot of time. You saw instead of going to the dealership and get hassled by salespeople and stuff like that, you see before you can go to the dealership whether that vehicle's work. So you can kind of narrow it down to a great degree in your shopping, before you go to the dealership. So that's a value. That's adding value. Consuming content and creating content, or the creation part doesn't have to be like video content. It could be anything. There's creative marketing campaigns. There's creative business contracts or whatever. You can create things that are of value to the world, to yourself, to other people, to your family. Being creative is after you develop the skills, and then to develop the skills, you got to push yourself. And then if you do all that stuff, then you have the potential, not guaranteed, to strive in life, depending on what you focus on, how you go about things or whatever. Because it doesn't take much to completely derail your life, whether it be drugs or alcohol or the wrong people, criminality, whatever. There's so many things that can derail a positive life. It's crazy. It's very, it's not good. So staying focused on the positive, staying focused on creativity, developing skills, pushing yourself to develop more skills throughout your whole life. Push yourself to learn. There's always something new to learn, and there's always something to cast off in the past. There's negative things, negative traits that you have to contend with. You got to realize that you have negative traits that you need to diminish, or you have to at least recognize they're negative. That's the first step. And that process you have to accurately look at your own family members and the people around you, your parents, stuff like that, and look and understand their flaws first. Or it's a kind of overlapping process. So you can't just have look at your family with rosy glasses or whatever. You have to look at everybody and try to dig and try to find flaws so you can understand them. It's not necessarily to put them down or to be negative about the person. It's just to understand that if they have a flaw and you don't know about it, then it's probably in you as well if you're spending any time around that person. So that's important to understand. Trying to be new. There's another saying that the world that you prepared for no longer exists. So whatever skills there's very few skills that just are timeless. You kind of have to slowly evolve your skills and your understanding and what you do in life over time. And you'll see this in people that are, they kind of get stuck. They get stuck at a certain age. So somebody develops and matures to a certain age, and then they stop, and then they stay that same person the rest of their life until they die. They listen to the same music, whatever was popular when they were a teenager, that's what they listen to the rest of their life. Whatever skills they learned when they were younger, that's the only skills they ever learned. They get stuck at a certain age. And I think it was Benjamin Franklin or something that said that, some people die when they're like 25, and then they're just not buried until they're 70. They stop growing, they stop learning, they go down. They're not going up anymore, they're going down, physically, mentally, whatever. So yeah, very fundamental. It's kind of a fundamental conversation here, or monologue. But these are important issues. I think it's like looking at the world today, and it's like, man, if you don't understand some of this stuff, then and really orient your mind properly, then it's real easy for a lot of people to go the wrong way and to just be in a total disaster, life individually and society-wide. Another thing I'll mention, might as well, it's long-winded video here, but cognitive biases, if you can look that up and look through the list. And basically what these are common pitfalls, common mistakes, common things that our minds trick ourselves into believing. And it's so common that they have names, and they've been around forever. So if somebody puts together a list like, hey, watch out for these things that might screw up your life, fundamentally screw up your life, and they make a list and hand it to you, you might want to look at it, So yeah, cognitive biases, like you can, like one example would be confirmation bias. You confirm what you already believe. You go around and find other things that believes whatever you believe, or has the same perspective as the one you hold now, and then there you go, I was right, and then there's another one called anchoring. Anchoring bias is basically like the first thing you were exposed to, the first information that you originally had, like you were exposed to a particular statement or knowledge or whatever. Well, it's hard for you to get rid of that, even though it's wrong. You kind of cling to that original first knowledge. It's kind of like the first impressions are lasting impressions. So there's all these things that are kind of anchored in our minds, and it's hard to get rid of them. And then we have to actively dig through and understand what we have been exposed to that's wrong, and try to get rid of it, and try to at least understand that it's wrong. It's going to pop up in your head all the time. Like if you have the wrong idea about something, and then it's wrong, you're like, man, why does that keep popping up in my mind as if that's the default? Because that's the anchoring bias, yeah, so they're like the false consensus bias, or false consensus effect, is where you assume that everybody else believes what you believe, and you go throughout your life thinking that. And so when somebody else comes along and says something that's contrary to what you believe, you're like shocked and appalled that somebody else could believe something different from you. And the fact that you think you're right, well, you might be right, they might be wrong. But if you don't understand that there's people out there that are wrong, then you won't. If you don't understand that, then you're going to be shocked every time somebody says something different than what you already believe.